Hello. Can you hear me? Maybe.
Maybe. Is this working?
I
Hello?
somebody.
Ah,
Hello.
well, hello. How are you?
I was working till the minute we were going live, so
Oh, wow.
I was trying to finish up a bunch of the people we were looking into, and it just took a while to do that. So
Doesn't it, though? Yeah.
yeah, it's sad how many people they are, but well, thank you for joining. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. I'm going to set up a couple of things right here for I can share my screen. And there we go. Oops. We'll just do entire screen. I know that looks weird, but I'm going to do it that way. Let's see. There we go. And make sure I can do this here from the beginning. And obviously talk about the big news that's going on with our Richard Allen at 50 years of age, who was arrested. Um, and I know that our group of ladies who have been watching the Delphi case and covering the Delphi case, and I don't know, we haven't figured out a name to call ourselves. We need to figure that out. But our little crew of women
Right.
um, who have followed this investigation forever were just as thrilled and excited as everybody else to hear that
Oh,
there was big movement in the case.
yeah. Just any bit of information, I feel elated. Just so elated. And I kept trying to contact you and get in touch with just about of it because I was excited. Definitely. I still am. I can't wait for tomorrow to hear what they say.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people watching that. I think what's interesting is as soon as his name was revealed, everybody in true crime was trying to search information, including ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that we were trying to look into as much as we could about him and what was going on and stuff. And there's a lot of information that is not out there about him, which is pretty shocking. Of some
Mm-hmm.
things you could normally do background checks on people and find that out. I mean, I know you were looking at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Amy, what was?
It can be confusing because, well, he has a common name, right? Uh, First of all, this just is surprising, right? Because I've never heard of this guy. Not that we should, right? Because I kind of felt like shell shocked almost. This is not what the dialogue has been lately. This name I've never heard come up at all, and everybody I've watched or read online, the comments and the sort of word going around is that everybody was surprised by the name and surprised that he's from Delphi.
Yeah,
You
actually,
know.
that makes it. I think it makes it creepier, honestly,
Hmm.
that he's still been sitting there, in the town that this all happened, like no big deal. I
I
think
think he must
the
have just been keeping such a low profile or something. I don't. I can't. Well, but then again, been out in public, I think, and out and about. I mean, had a job, in the CVS and all that. It's strange.
I think his personality and the job are very much like you know
I think
oops, sorry, hold on. That they said that hiding in plain sight, right?
Right.
I mean, here's a pharmacist tech that's sitting at the CVS, and people. I mean, it's almost amazing that at first you'd say it's almost amazing they didn't recognize him because. But you look at him; he does have that look as everybody else we've compared
Right.
images of, right? I
Right.
mean, I don't know how many Indiana guys have the beard and the mustache and all that going on, but my God, we
Right.
found about every Hoosier guy that has that look to them
Right.
compared to Bridge Guy. But
Hmm.
he in walking distance to the Monon High Bridge.
That's incredible to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, he looks like every middle-aged white guy from, you know,
yeah,
just
absolutely. And I
this
think
is
I
yeah.
think the odd thing about so then you start to look at, okay, he gets arrested, and now Indiana law has that they can hold you for 72 hours before they announce and say what charges you have.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's a Monday wait. So a
Right.
Friday pickup and a Monday announcement of whatever they're going to announce. And you brought up a really good point. And we read a lot into the words that we have heard Doug Carter say over the last 5.5 years.
I hang on to that man's words. Yes. I
Right.
think
So,
everybody does.
so everybody could be overthinking it or
Hmm.
underthinking it. But you pointed out a comment that he made that was interesting about this arrest.
The arrest was strategic was the word, right? And
Yeah,
then that the it, the word fascinating, is used. That how they came to this was a fascinating series of events. So that yeah, is that what you're talking about? Those
yeah,
two
yeah,
elements? Because if it's strategic, kind of, it may have been you. Somebody had said it too. Was did you say something about maybe it's to kind of see what the pattern of behavior among certain circles would be over
right.
the weekend, and it because I don't know if it's strategic. Also, that could also insinuate that there's other people yet to be um, either questioned or charged in some way with some part or with some involvement. And that word was used, right? He did say somebody said that the word was involvement is what
Yeah,
he involvement and in the case. But I think, but based on what we've seen from people that would know, family and things like that, it it has to be him. I can't think that he would not be directly tied, right?
right. Well, I think when he says the word strategic, I find that word interesting, right?
Hmm.
Versus like, I don't know, done. We've achieved it, right? Accomplished,
Right, right.
finished. And I think that the complications of why we had to wait so long for him to be arrested is probably going to be shared. And
Yeah,
before I lead into what that will lead into, which we're fixing to talk about, I think that it goes into then, okay, we heard that Keegan stated that he was waiting in a vehicle I'll say red van or red Jeep because that's what they were saying. So then you go into, did he do this by himself? Because
Mhm.
was it him using Anthony shots and he was also shared that particular
Mhm.
user ID,
Yeah, could
that
be.
thing to meet her
Mhm.
and meet them? If that is, then that's a connection
Mhm.
that he would have with the Klines.
And you can go different ways with it. You could say, well, maybe he was given access or purchased access or the credentials to use that false persona. Maybe several people had the ability to kind of be quote unquote Anthony underscore shots, right?
Right,
But we do know all of the links that go, like all roads lead to Rome in terms of the devices, Keegan's devices. Now, who knows if they haven't got other stuff at this point on, if that is the case, if other people had the login, the credentials for whatever reason. Um, there were more than one person outside of that IP address and those devices, then it kind of makes it fork in different possibilities that way.
yeah.
That he could have been just by himself, and I don't know how, but managed to accomplish the horrific thing that happened, the murders, by himself.
Yeah,
Uh, I
I
don't
think
know.
with Keegan's comment, that, remember when the comment came out about that he was waiting in the Jeep, remember it didn't identify that he was waiting in the Jeep for his dad.
Right.
The
Nope.
assumption was from
Hmm.
everybody that he's talking about his dad,
Hmm.
which I will also step back from that, because if you believe that more than one person was there, then
Hmm.
obviously you have to figure out, if this guy's using their connection to meet up, why would then Keegan Google where the gas station is, and why would he go there to the gas station?
Hmm.
Is he, if you look at the gas station, it is right across the not the Monon High Bridge, but another bridge, a crossover of the
Hmm.
highway, um, directly coming from where that CVS is located.
Right. It would be kind of in a direct route there.
So he's
Um,
there waiting for somebody. So no matter what, I mean, technically there are two people involved, because
mhm.
Keegan is admitting he was in a Jeep.
He's placed himself there on the day in Delphi, and he doesn't live in Delphi.
Right.
He's an inside guy. He's an inside kid, right? He's in Peru on his computer,
Yep. Yep.
and he's in Delphi that day. Well, that's what he says. I mean, he could be lying, but I mean,
Well, and if he's saying he's in the Jeep, then he has knowledge of what is happening. He had
mhm.
knowledge of this person going
Well, and
to
I
meet.
don't know that he said the Jeep. Not that it matters, but if we're talking about vehicles, and it does become important, if it is true that he was there, he could be in. So I thought the word was like a truck or it was a kind of a nondescript, and I guess we were assuming that it was the one that we've seen outside of his house. He could have been in somebody else's car or
Right.
vehicle, but
Right.
he, whatever the case, that kind of doesn't matter at this point. Um, he's
Well,
there.
I guess you could argue the fact that his dad could have been there too,
Hmm.
and that he was, it doesn't make sense. He's not going and Googling a gas station because he needs gas. We've all
Hmm.
talked about that. Our group of ladies, we've already had this big discussion. He's not going to Google ahead of time, but hey, before I go meet girls in this place, I need to go stop and get gas somewhere, right? He's getting it in Peru, where he's
Yeah.
coming from, where he lives. So there's a purpose for why he would
Hmm.
Google that gas station. So it's
Right.
either a pickup or a drop off.
And it could be of an item or of a person or both. Perish the thought of that. But if there was a handoff of something post facto after what happened, and he was to meet somebody there, let's say he was to meet this guy there to get something from the crime scene, to do something with it. If there is this, if they're in on it together, if they're involved in that way together.
Right. And I think that puts, and so, I mean, the big thing we also all know is that when Kegan Kline came up recently for his court date, the thought process at the time was, if he's helping and he's doing stuff to help with that case, then they're going to offer him a plea deal, and that it would have been over and we wouldn't have had a trial date. And, because it would have been done and he would have had lesser charges, let's say, for that. And at the time, my assumption was either he didn't give them what they needed to give him, or he lied, right? What they were trying to look for, he lied about. Or they're just not ready. They weren't just, they just weren't ready yet to do that. So if they're going court in January, but they bust this guy, then they don't need Keegan's help. I mean, how much help did Kegan do?
Exactly. His ship may have sailed in terms of any opportunities for anything, and that's perfectly fine by me, know. And I think most people would want to see him face all 30 charges. It may not happen that way. Some are probably going to fall off there. But he's going to do hard time, serious time for the horrible things. Just, in the case in Miami County. And who knows if something could happen still yet with him or others with the charges in Delphi.
Absolutely. So,
I mean, it's hard for me to get. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to add before we forget. First of all, I want to shout out to Mama Bear and Tilt on there, who help us do research and stuff too. We're scattered all over the place, all over the United States. Our group of motley crew. We're from all over, different ages, different whatever. And one of our other investigators lives in London, and which is, it's interesting to see all the sides and stuff of it. And so we appreciate their help and things with us. And we see everybody else out there too. Like I said, Mama Bear and Kelt's here, and Lance.
I hate not being able to see the StreamYard.
Well, I had to do
hello to people in the chat.
And we appreciate everybody here, Earthkeeper. So welcome to our discussion. So one thing that we did find out, in lack of some information on this guy, which is very curious and very interesting in what we normally do and trying to check out some background stuff. So we know he worked at the CBS. We know he was a tech. We know he has moved around a lot in the research that we found in areas. But we do know that him and his wife married in Peru, Indiana. So we have a connection and stuff, just looking in that. And that was back in 1991. So, and I feel horrible for, let me say this right now, for his wife and children, because, oh my God, I can't imagine. But we found, there were some other items we found like that, Amy, the kind of different communities that he was from. And
I get so lost on this guy. And the more I look into just digging into stuff online, I feel like I don't even know who he is. I feel that, like Friday, I felt pretty certain about a lot of stuff. And it seems like the more I look into it, it leads back into just this confusion in my mind between looking at things on my case and doing a deep dive into the stuff on my case, and then ruling out people who have the same common generic name that he's got here, this Richard Matthew Allen, and then seeing where points line up in background checks and stuff, such as addresses, dates, and places and names that connect. It's really confusing, and I just have a strong suspicion that he's got probably more than one case of identity theft going on.
Yeah.
And that makes it really, I mean, I'm glad I'm not in law enforcement, because this is confusing. But then again, they have way more resources than, just people on, looking at it from the public perspective. They've got a lot of information, and I feel like I'm just kind of shooting in the dark at some of it.
I think that the thing that we have noticed during this is a connection with the small communities that are around from there. And so when we talk Delphi, Peru, Logansport, right, we see these areas that they're Kokomo.
Mm-hmm.
We see all of these areas that keep, popping in from people that have been surrounding the case, people who know each other and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
People have connected back and forth. I would not be surprised at all with a connection with him and maybe Tony Kline knowing each other because of being from Peru, because of the longevity of him getting married from Peru. And I think it was his wife who's from Logansport, and Tony Kline's parents originally were from Logansport, and they have family in Logansport. So that background of that many years, connection between the Klines and them and that community being so so small that they can know each other from graduating from the same high schools and all that type of stuff. So we have covered a lot of, when we talk about kind of our transition here, of where were others arrested after Kegan Kline, and will others be arrested after the press conference on Monday. The reason I bring that in, if you've watched, there is a show we did regarding international child Pedi Ring that was busted in Indiana, spread quite a bit. Actual resource of a gentleman who started it was out of England, and we go through a lot of research of where it connected, who it went to, and it ended up being two separate operation bust. It was Operation Nest Egg and Operation Bulldog. So, having this information, I think we're going to have a lot more come out. But I want to show you some people who were busted since that. This is, mind you, not in any particular order. It was in the order that we did it in for guys who were arrested in this, because I feel like their big connection that they're going to throw out there is the child Pedi Rings. And I think that is going to come up. So, yes, and thank you. We were talking about the aliases, and yes, we do know that there have been some that have come out to say already that Richard knows the Klines. I would have, that doesn't shock me or surprise me at all. There's no way there's a Logansport and Peru connection, Delphi connection, and that they wouldn't know each other. So these are some people who the investigations start early on. And there has been a lot of investigation of people, and the Internet Task Force for the state of Indiana, working with NECMEC and some others going on. And we've heard about people who have been caught with just thousands of images. So I wanted to kind of go over some of these that I think some could be, some of these people could be in, in connection with what was going on. So anyway, we have a guy in Greenstown, and he was caught with several devices. Children as young as 4 years old. In SA, he was charged with 7 counts of possession of child pornography with an aggravated factor of level 5 felony, and 3 counts of possession of child pornography level 6 felony for his alleged role in the investigation, according to Kokomo Police Department. So it's found out in Kokomo. And he was, when we went through the crimes, internet crimes against children, it came out of Kokomo, working with NECMEC. It was generated by Twitter and included 2 images depicting child sexual abuse. And during the search, they took 4 cell phones, 2 tablets, a hard drive, a laptop, and 1 all-in-one computer were seized. And they were taken into evidence, and authorities reportedly discovered were images of videos of children, mostly between the ages of 4 and 16. And he was arrested on August 11th of 22. Some of these cases took them a year to 2 years to find. And we do end up finding that there is a lot of people connected in this group. And the ring that was busted here in Indiana before was a ring that had this type of abuse level going on. So let's see here. This one was interesting, Amy, if you remember that. This one was coming up here, is a guy who they don't give us the image for. And there's a few guys that are like this. And they don't give us a mugshot. Out of Evansville, he was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison because he pled guilty. And unfortunately, when they plead guilty, they're getting less sentences for what they're doing, which I don't know about anybody else, but that's disgusting. Yes. So we've got the Evansville guy, 35. That was 2020. Was a search warrant went to him. FBI agents looked through the Kik accounts. They have his username that they shared. They usually do that because they're trying to find anybody else that may have had connection with that. And a lot of these say that if you've had connection with this username. They talk about the cell phones and devices they have found. He was distributing and possessed the images. It was children under 12 years old. This guy had involved sadistic, or I'm trying to think how you pronounce that word, masochist, M-A-S-O-C-H-I-S-T-I-C.
Yeah, masochistic.
Thank you very much. I have Amy here to help me read. And he was arrested on August 31st. But it's interesting when you look at who is busting who in some of these. And I find it hilarious because lots of people think that the Kik that they're sending kids to, they're not going to keep recording it. You know what I mean? They're not.
That stuff goes away, kind of like Snapchat. Some of those.
And I'm glad to tell people that following all of this stuff lately,
Oh, can I interrupt for just a
Sure,
second?
go ahead, please.
I think we ought to throw a couple of wrenches out in chat or something. I think, or Mama Bear says that I think some of the spam bots have been in there. The ones that have the links that people shouldn't click on.
Oh, yes.
I think. Do you have the ability to do that? To give somebody, or do you want me? I can. You know what? I can go back into chat because I have a wrench.
Oh, can you do that and still be on or no?
I can try.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
I'll
no,
let
no,
you know
no.
if I need to say
No,
something.
and you remember these people as we go through, because as we were collecting all of these people being busted in Indiana when it was happening, and again, I mean, as many as we've had busted in Kokomo, it's almost like there's a damn hub there, right? It's been freaking me out how many has been going down in the Kokomo area.
Yeah, that's really disturbing. Or is it a good thing in terms of like taking care of business, cleaning it out, shining a light on it, and was it
Perry, I'm
always
not
there?
sure.
Is it this bad everywhere? Oh, these are the questions I have. Is it like that here? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and that's the thing. We've had so many busted here. Is it busted because Indiana just has more than the average? I obviously we didn't track. There is a couple people who came out of state into Indiana that were busted here, and ironically, they were going to damn Kokomo.
I know. Jeez.
Why are they going into Kokomo from?
Yeah,
We
there's something with
guys
Kokomo
here
that's a little special. I'm sorry if anybody from Kokomo is listening, but
right. Yeah, we're not saying everybody in Kokomo is a predator. But we say you need to watch it because there's a lot of people being busted. And I want to just shout out to Perry. Perry, I have no idea. I'm a newbie, Perry. So if there is bots to do something, I'm not uh, great into that yet. So we've got this guy, 39. Guess what? He's out of Kokomo.
you don't say.
So he was, yeah, that's a shocker. And he was arrested on September 13th of 22, but they got the tip in 21, which isn't that frustrating? Actually, I have a person in here who's going to piss everybody off when I tell you when this guy found out he was doing something, and then when he got arrested. And you know why you're going to be shocked? Because he was a damn kindergarten teacher. And the parents found out that they started investigating the damn guy in February, and they let him keep teaching.
Yeah.
But
he had to have been under quite a watchful eye. There's got to be something to do with the whole process of making those busts go down without, I don't know. But you do hate to think that they were aware, but probably hands were tied in some way. You hope that that there was some kind of hiccup or they had to wait, right? You can't just get a search warrant until you have enough to go off of. But
yeah,
that is frustrating.
And just to answer the question, yes, when you have, in my opinion, Childuro, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Law enforcement does stay very quiet during it. It's usually after the fact that they'll talk about what they busted. The video that I have about the prior international child Pedi Ring that was busted in Indiana some years ago talks about that. I mean, they start the investigation, and unfortunately, it is painfully long when they go through it. So we have to remember, the first search warrant on the Klines wasn't about the Delphi murders. It was about the CSAM, because there was suddenly a tip of CSAM, and when the tip came in for CSAM, the FBI out of Chicago notified the police there, and that is the reason they went into the Klines in the first place. Now, lots of these investigations and operations and busts from the FBI start a long time in, and then they try to bust who has this. They have to identify the children, right? So when they got the info from Kegan Kline, remember they took some devices, and what they could see physically on his phones, they were sitting here talking about. And then Keegan's surprised as hell, as much as everybody else, that they wait 3 years to arrest him, right? They even have it recorded in his own information where he's like, wow, you guys waited 3 years to come and arrest me. So,
Yeah.
you know why it took 3 years? One, it took 3 years because they had to wait for the devices to all be looked at. They had to identify the children, which they didn't identify all the people in those photos.
Oh, there's no
If you
way.
go back through one of the videos that we did also talking about what did they find on the phones, what was in the arrest warrant. Well, when they finally went through those phones, there are some girls, it says they cannot determine their age. So if they can't determine their age and they don't know that they're underage, that means they haven't identified them.
Yeah, or even like where the photos and videos originated from. I mean, you could probably track it if it's being passed around or uploaded to certain forums or groups. But they're having to look at stuff in the background to try to identify just things in the actual pictures and videos. I feel bad for anybody that has to investigate. I can't even imagine.
Well, and you know that we know that Keegan was getting images from girls who were in the state of Indiana and that were not far from him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other reason we covered the Yellow app, because Yellow app encompassed both Instagram and Snapchat in itself, and it could help somebody identify your location.
Well,
So
yeah, it has that geolocation factor, and then it links to your other social media, which
right,
when they're
without their
marketing stuff
knowledge,
like
without
this for
girls' knowledge.
kids, they shouldn't
Yeah.
have other social media. They shouldn't have it, period. I mean, if you're saying, well, you have to be 12 years old to sign up for an account, but go ahead and link your Instagram and Facebook. That's so stupid. Ugh.
Right, right. And if you haven't seen that, I did I want to call it mini version, but I still talked a lot of the yellow app description of what they did with that app is, and basically it's a dating app for ages 13, and they say to 25, which I don't know how they think 25 is okay. They call it oh my gosh,
Tinder for
Tinder for
teens.
teens. And you swipe right, you can meet these kids, you can watch the videos of the kids,
You can
and you can
see who's around you that you share common interests with by using the geolocating feature. It's like
and
that's just so
there's
messed up.
no age verification. And if the child is, for example, 11 or 12, and they put in that they're 11 or 12, that app automatically would default to make them 13, so that they can stay in that app.
They may have corrected some of this stuff by now. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean the recent arrest with the Ubu stuff has still been, you've got men way over 25 who are in there pretending they're kids.
Absolutely.
They're meeting 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds, and we've got some that are in this, I believe, too.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, they get the tip from NECMEC through Snapchat. They had video that was sharing sexual abuse. This was in September of 21. He's not arrested till almost a year later. They were able to use the information from Snapchat to trace his IP address. And when they got him, he's like, just get it over with. Just go ahead and arrest me. And he was looking at, he said that he looked at child pornography and has a collection on his phone. And then he says he gets on the dark web and downloads it, adding that his collection was about 250 gigabytes of just child pornography. And then the police decided to go ahead and take him into custody on the spot, noting that Ashcroft lived in a home with a roommate who had 2 children, which is terrifying.
That is terrifying.
So, I mean, that's just, I can't even imagine. I can't.
We keep seeing Kick over and over too, and we know that Kegan talked about using Kick. That was something he used.
Oh yeah, that was one of his things, and that's the social media apps we talk about and cover what he used and what he tried to get kids over to be able to continue. So here's Matthew Powell, 36. He's also from Kokomo, Indiana. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Arrested September 23rd of 22, but his search warrant was on September 6th. He had a cyber tip that was generated, guess what, by Kick again, and included 3 videos depicting child SA material or CSAM. It was determined that the 36-year-old Matthew Powell of Kokomo was the Kick user who was suspected of transmitting that content. And during the search, the cellular phone was seized. And then after forensic examination of the cellular phone, evidence of the child CSAM was in there. So he got 3 counts of child exploitation, which is level 4, with aggravating factor. 2 counts of possession of child pornography, level 5, with an aggravating factor. And Powell was already incarcerated at the Howard County Criminal Justice Center on unrelated charges when they went ahead and finally issued the warrant for his arrest. So, Kokomo guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's amazing that, they share with each other. A lot of these people share with each other, just like we talked about the ring, on what to do, how to get the pictures.
Mm-hmm. Strategies, and then also how to cover your tracks and basically to also keep their group safe, that they have they try to stay one step ahead too. That's why, it's got to be frustrating every time they make a bust. It's like opening up Pandora's box that leads to other people, but then the ones that weren't in that bust are going to go get smarter based on the lesson learned from, seeing their friends go down, get busted on this. So they're going to be trying different things and moving their groups around,
So Perry is asking, who was the ex-cop the Klines were friendly with? And is there any connection between him and Alan? Well, I'm assuming that I think there's 2 cops that we know had a relationship with them. And one of the
one's passed away.
The one who commits suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one who moved to Las Vegas. And I always forget that guy's name. I always have to look him up every time we talk about him.
You'd think I would bring my notebook with me every time I get on StreamYard or talk to you guys. I never know where it is.
Yeah.
Not when I need it. Not when I need it. I can't remember the name, but there was who was the other one?
We had one that he was friends with that no longer was a cop, right? The one that stepped away.
Oh, okay. And then you'll have to tell me about that. I don't know about that one.
And then we had the one who moved to Las Vegas, and we were all kind of like, well, that's a very weird connection. And once that stuff was going on, they sorry, I had to get a tissue. I keep coughing.
Oh,
what's your heart? It's killing me here. I can't handle it. But yeah, I can't remember that guy's name. We'll have to look that up.
It escapes me right now too. And it's funny, that's not the first time that we've asked each other, what was that guy's name again? And we always have to go look it up. It's like a mental block.
Yeah, I mean, we feel like there was a connection of something going on that guy knew.
Right. Not necessarily with this guy. I mean, not with Richard Allen. We don't know who beats me. Probably anybody else's guess is as good as ours as to who all he knows and is connected with at this point.
Well, it is curious. This stuff is very curious about how he's going to connect, because as everybody's looking into this guy's background, there's stuff there. Well, let me put it this way. There is stuff that is not there that should be there.
Right.
Like where we look everybody else up, we can find stuff out, and we have found out stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, like his Facebook, you don't see it. Did he have one? I would assume so. His wife definitely did, right? That's where most everything's coming from, is the pictures and stuff from him.
I think a lot of the social media stuff is down now, and it's unfortunate that so many people have gone after the the family members that we have no reason to believe have anything to do with anything, and probably are just uh, having a very difficult time. But I think that they've taken the Facebook down, that the wife has, and maybe perhaps the daughter. I'm not sure. I don't get into Facebook. I don't like it. I have one, but
Hey, that's the only way I know where how my cousins and stuff are doing. So that's
well, hey, no judgment.
so. So we're looking at this guy, Trevor Lane, 24 years old. Here's the other thing that we've noticed on these people that we've been watching who've been busted all over Indiana. They are young.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, you have some of your older guys, but most of these guys are very young.
Several in
Which
their
is kind of like
20s.
Keegan, right? They're kind of like
Mhm.
Keegan Kline's age group and younger. I mean, we have younger guys in here too.
Mhm.
Um, but I will say I do know that there's a picture, and I guess we should bring this up. There is a picture that is very creepy, of one of his daughters, that it looks like a senior picture that was taken,
Oh,
and
yes.
she
Mhm.
is on the bridge.
I had read somewhere a while back that that's a popular place for people to get pictures, for special occasions. So, but in this case, that's just extra upsetting.
Yeah, I mean,
It's,
because okay, so he had kids. We know he had
mhm.
kids. And sorry, we keep bouncing around and stuff like this. This is how we normally brainstorm, by the
We're
way.
all
When we're
over the
going
place.
through here, we start investigating something, and then all of a sudden we're
Right.
thinking of
We're
something else.
talking about Richard Allen right now, not the guy that the face you see on the screen.
Right. We are talking about the suspect who you just were all looking into, but yeah, I mean, when you look at, so he has kids that were only a couple years older than Abby and Libby,
Mhm.
right? So this is what is going to creep out, and I'm not assuming anything, but when you have these type of guys, if he has child pedophilia info, I will not be shocked.
No, I won't be either.
If he was connected to images, I would not be shocked,
Mhm.
because a man who commits this type of crime on underage girls is probably looking at that type of stuff. And he
Sure.
could be looking at the more severe level, right? As we look at
Right.
guys who have
Mhm.
all been busted in Indiana, some of them, their fetish is yearly young kids. Some of their thing
Mhm.
is hurting children. And you
Making
can
them
really
cry is a requirement if you're going to create it. That's the stuff that we've been seeing, not looking at, but like reading about the way it's being described once they've made some of these busts. Some of the descriptions of what is there is just atrocious. It's stuff you can't even consciously think of. I mean, just that a requirement to be in our secret little group is that, oh, yeah, you've got to make a kid cry or it doesn't count.
Right. And that's was busted here in Indiana. One
Yeah.
of the worst that they've ever seen was busted from a guy from Bloomington, Indiana. And he was found out during Operation Nest Egg.
Mhm.
And he was originally caught through that group of this international ring. And then his stuff was so severe and he shared it so much to people. The FBI opened an operation just for him, that was Operation Bulldog, and his stuff was severe. It was to show pain being caused to the children. It was beyond that, and they said it was beyond their worst imagination here. But but going backwards, Perry asked if there was only known of one child. I have seen that there were two kids. Am I wrong, Amy, or have you seen that same thing?
I haven't seen any evidence that there is a second child. in the household or from that family, but I've heard about it, right? Like,
A younger kid.
right.
A younger kid than the 28-year-old. So yeah,
There's one that's the one that's married, and I'm assuming though, if the one on the bridge would be the younger one, right? Because the one that's married would be the 28, probably be the 28-year-old.
Well, the girl's name when we
I don't
checked,
know.
she was the 28-year-old. The
Mhm.
bridge picture was the 28-year-old girl.
Is that with that time? But that the ages wouldn't work, would it?
I know. That's what's weird
Mm-mm.
about it.
That's not right.
Because
That can't
it's
be
not
right.
the same, that's not the same age. It's not the same age that we looked up. So it led to think that they may have two kids. But we do know that there was
Mm.
a kid in the family who did have a photo that was taken on the Monon High Bridge, her basically kind of a little bit leaning across the bridge, right? Kind of like a lay
Mhm.
down type of,
Mhm.
sit up, but her legs were across the bridge.
Mhm.
Picture taken. Some people have shared that picture with the girl's image out of it. Some
With the
people have
face, yeah.
shared it
Mhm.
with her face in it, which
That's
I don't agree
very
with
bad
that.
judgment.
Yeah,
That's very bad judgment.
I really don't agree with that because, you know, there's a lot of times that this stuff is a second life to these guys. And
Mhm.
you've got wives and definitely children who don't know that that's happening. And, or God help us, hopefully they don't, because some of them can also be victim to what's going on at home.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
so, we don't want to ruin, you know, we don't want to ruin kids' lives any more
No.
than it's going to be when they find out that their dad's been arrested for something like this.
And they
Um,
should have a victim's advocate too, you know,
yeah, yeah,
because that's another kind of trauma that that man is inflicted on people that he should have loved and protected, you know.
yeah,
And
absolutely, absolutely. So we know that there's a lot of hidden stuff. There's going to be some stuff that I'm sure, if social media is evidence about something, then the FBI and the Indiana State Police could have taken that down, right? So he could have had a Facebook page that all got pulled because there could be some type of communication evidence, maybe even location, right? Who knows? He could have checked in somewhere. Um, on that day, his children, if he has children who are in school, would have been out of school at that same time, right? And that CVS building is right over there near close by, just like we said, where the gas station location is. That CVS building is right over there on the same side where the elementary, middle school, and high school all sit. They're all right there in a row, um, in Delphi. So, yeah, it's just a creepy coincidence that you would know that his kids would know that that's a hangout, right? That's a hangout where they go and they win, and it looks like a senior picture to me. I'm assuming, maybe, um, but to have that image, that just shows his awareness that kids hang out there. So it's it's creepy, very creepy. Um, you know, so we'll go on. Again, these are people that are previous arrested after Kline has been, Kegan was arrested, where his stuff could have led to, where his Dropbox could have led to. We're not saying all of these people, we're not saying they're involved in the Delphi case. We're not saying that they're arrested in that. It could be from that. And, there could be more arrests that happen after, uh, they do an announcement on Monday, because they could be announcing what operation that they had. And we could have more arrests that are happening this weekend that we will now, we won't know about till Monday. But I do think that there's going to spill the beans at least of what took so long. So this guy uh, was from Trevor. He's only 24, Anderson. He is a substitute custodian employee for Anderson Community Schools. They had arrested him. He's under preliminary charges of child solicitation. They had not filed the actual charges yet in Madison County. The school corporation had notified the Anderson Police Department and Child Services since the victim was under 18 years of age. And the victim is reportedly a student in the Anderson school system, but was not a high school student. So that's telling you that it is a younger than high school kid from Anderson schools. So he was arrested on September 30th of 22, but they haven't filed the charges and revealed all the info of that. But hey, he's a custodian at the schools, found with stuff. So let's see our next one here. Oh, here's our next guy we're going to look at. He's from Kokomo too. So I'm trying to see if that one's up here. Yeah, our Elliot von Schaffner, 26. 26-year-old, Kokomo, Indiana. An undercover investigation led to the home of him, and they found a cell phone, USB drive, and a laptop, all allegedly filled with pornographic images of children. He was under the online username of Elliot90765. He responded to a post with an undercover officer, basically showing interest in sexual activity with children. At one point, the undercover officer asked Schaffner, and he indicated that Schaffner was sexually active with a 5-year-old female at the time. They found later that there was a child molestation report that had been filed with the Kokomo police in 2015, but charges were never filed in that investigation of a 4-year-old. So he'd already been molesting this 4-year-old back then. And the undercover officer reportedly received numerous images and videos from him depicting very young children in SA or explicit poses. He was arrested February 10th of 2017. So this was a Kokomo guy with these type of images and stuff again.
You know, that's an interesting arrest date.
Right. And you know what? You and I talked about this, and this was just a thought that popped in my head. You know, they go to the Kline's house, FBI investigating, you know, this images, the stuff that's in there, right? It was images being shared. That's what the arrest warrant said. Images being shared. And the FBI reported this to the police to go over to the Klines. And if they're investigating all of this and they're seeing this things that they're looking into of who has this material, my fear is that they were being looked at for CSAM before the murders even happened. And that's my fear, is that it was on the radar of them looking at these people even prior to this actual murders happening.
I'm sure because of the, the bust that happened 10 years prior, right, that you talked about in the other video. These could just be, people that scattered after that, right?
Yeah.
And kind of regrouped or reorganized or found different places, different avenues of, it's hard to even articulate this kind of thing. But how they kind of seek each other out, maybe in dark corners of the web or in different connections they have in real life. I don't really know, but they probably regroup. And it could be that investigators were actually looking at some of these people. And then maybe, like what you've said, it could be that FBI was handy in the air, in this kind of investigative mode in this area, right? To
Yeah.
begin with.
And then it takes them a long time, right? We look at a lot of these cases, and some of these cases, they're getting 2 years, they're getting like 2 years in advance, and then they have to wait till they get enough probable cause to go serve the search warrant. And then after they get the search warrant, I mean, it's the same process, just like we were all frustrated with Kegan, although it took longer. It took them 3 years before somebody goes, hey, what about that crap we found on his phones? And then they finally go and look at what it said, because we see when it's finally assigned, which is 3 years later. And then that officer reviews everything that was found, that what the research found, and then goes, oh yeah, we've got this many kids in Indiana, this many girls, little girls in Indiana. We know where they were located. They can tell where they were located at. And then they can tell who these girls were. They have to notify those families, and then they arrest the son of a bitch, right? It takes 3 years. So, but they're not thinking that these people are planning murders, right?
Right.
I mean, they do have to worry about the children being abused, and they go quickly in when they find a child who's being abused.
They do.
Like the 5-year-old, right? They were like, oh, here's the 5-year-old. Let's go in. Let's go do this quickly because this is happening.
Right.
But they're not thinking that somebody's going to use this for the next step of, I've watched these images, I've seen these things of little girls, and I am going to, now my desire is maybe just from looking at maybe the abusive type of pornography that they have, but now they want to actually commit a crime. Because, I mean, I don't know what our chat's thoughts are, but in my opinion, this person came ready to commit that crime. We know about that they talk about a gun that was used to get the kids to listen to what that person's going to be said. And then we hear that, there are knife cuts and stuff on the girls. I don't want to be too graphic and disgusting, but we know that the girls are cut. They're not going to shoot the gun because they're going to draw attention to themselves if they shoot the gun. Somebody came prepared to do this.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
To the girls. So, that then we got to look at, okay, did they catch, did this guy, did our guy sitting in the pharmacy looking at materials, sharing materials? I mean, was he sharing materials with, he's the same age as Tony. They could be sharing stuff. They could be, knowing about that kind of thing, and you think Kegan said he's there. Is there anybody else there? Is Kegan there to help this pharmacist guy, or is Kegan there to drop off, somebody else?
Or moving around devices, even.
Right.
Maybe he's the tech person, right? Like maybe they have roles. I don't know. That's terrible to think about, but maybe that's his strong suit. Like I say, he's an indoor kid and he does tech stuff. Maybe he was kind of managing that side of it.
Yeah.
He wasn't on the bridge, right?
Right.
We can assume that. At least he wasn't making it across the bridge. That certainly. I don't think anybody ever thought that, really.
So this next guy is the one that I was mentioning to you guys. This guy, Brian Jakes, 49, Kokomo, Indiana, again. Former Kokomo kindergarten teacher, facing multiple counts of possession of child pornography and child exploitation, being held on a $20,000 bond as police continue their investigation. So this is they're continuing the investigation, meaning there can be more, there's more stuff going on. But he already is facing 9 counts of possession of child porn and 4 counts of child exploitation. So this is some quotes from parents that found this out. Because guess what? They started investigating him in February. They don't arrest him till April 26th. They let him keep teaching kindergarten kids while they're investigating the child pornography case. So parents are coming out that it's not fair that he was allowed to continue teaching at the school if he's being investigated since February. He should have been removed from the school system immediately. Well, what parent doesn't agree with that? Could you imagine
Mm-hmm.
if you had a kindergarten kid in there and then you're worried to death that something happened, right? Because this is the thing. The multi now this is I want everybody to listen that this was key from the news info that was shared with them because just the way they worded it, the multi-state and federal investigation launched in February when the NetMech received a cyber tip about suspected child porn being sent through the messaging app Kik. Right there, that's telling you there's a multi-state and federal investigation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It hasn't been announced what the operation is, what operation the FBI is doing, but it's already telling you that this is a multi-state. And again, it reminds you of, if you haven't watched the international child porn ring that was busted in Indiana, I got a video on that, of that past one that happened, leading all the way to England and different countries. So,
because that's where you address that question that I think many of us that have been interested in the Delphi case have asked, if what investigators were saying in the Kegan Kline interrogation about his device being linked to the biggest bust of CSAM, or the biggest ring in Indiana history, his devices, right?
yep.
His phone, pretty much, just in and of itself. That, well, if that's the biggest one, what happened before? Like,
Right. And
what
that
was the one?
that was
What is
the
this
point.
one beating? Right? What is Keegan's? Beating out in terms of the history of CSAM investigations in the state of Indiana? What came prior? And you go through that about the busts that happened, the big operation. So it really does shed a lot of light onto the fact that what Kegan had and was doing was massive.
Right. Just from the words, because that is from the questioning that the um, police said directly to Kegan.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna open the largest child pedophile, ring here in Indiana history. Well, heck, we already had one that was multi countries, multi state. The people were holding the hard drives of this ring in the state of Indiana. They busted people here and then had those two rings. So if they tell Kegan that his stuff is going to be bigger than that, that's why I wanted to point out to everybody, wait a minute, you guys need to hear how big it was before, because it was pretty scary. So yeah, and this guy, this teacher, to answer questions, yes, there is a union here for teachers. But this guy, the court documents say the children involved were the range between the ages of 4 and 9, but are not of Howard County community. But it says that doesn't weaken the burden on the parents of the students at the school who are outraged. Right. Who cares if he doesn't have pictures now of the kids at the classroom? They're not from Howard County. Okay, well, great. They're not from Kokomo. So, but he's still got pictures of ages 4 to 9. He's working inside an elementary school with kindergarten kids. Does that make you feel better? Maybe he draws the line, and I wouldn't do that to anybody in Howard County. Give me a break.
Could you toss out wrenches to our two friends, please? Can you do that?
Do what? I'm sorry.
Can you toss wrenches to our two friends in chat?
Yeah, I don't know how to do that in.
If you're in, I think all you have to do is just tap on them in the chat in YouTube. Can you see the YouTube side?
No, not at this moment. Doesn't let me.
Like on another device or anything muted,
I think I had one already given, but
oh,
they're using different stuff.
I'm struggling to keep up. If you want, I can hop off of here and I could probably focus. I feel like I don't know. I mean, you're doing great.
I find your voice wonderfully just and reminding me of stuff, but you do whatever you need to.
I think
Um,
I feel like I'm missing stuff. I can't keep up.
well, let me look up something because I just saw a post. Hold on here. I want to make sure I bring this forward. So I'm just looking at an update that happened a couple hours ago. And it's saying that investigators to announce charges versus Delphi murders suspect. So it's saying when the state police, Doug Carter, steps up before the microphone, reporters from across the country, blah, 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 at the Delphi United Methodist Church Monday morning at 10 a.m., he is expected to announce what charges 50-year-old Richard Allen faces in connection with the murders of the two girls on the banks of Deer Creek, February 13th. The families and friends of 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams and strangers who have been captivated by this case will learn what role, if any, investigators claim Allen played in the deaths. Okay, people, did everybody hear that, or is that weird just to me?
That wording is interesting because I think that goes. What is that from? What's that article
It's
from?
Fox 59 News.
They were the one who broke the whole story on Friday. That was, I think, the outlet that first reported about
Yeah,
the
so
arrest.
they just did an update. So it's an update to talk about tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It was released at a couple hours ago from Fox 59. And in it, it talks about the families and friends of 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams and strangers who have been captivated by this case will learn what role, if any, investigators claim Allen played in the deaths. That's just odd wording to me. I don't know.
What role, if any, sounds to me like the legal stuff that we heard over and over with the Johnny Depp trial, right, this summer with the, you know, what blah blah blah, if any,
Yeah,
and that to me it sounds like a evasive way that maybe the journalist is trying to phrase that in a
yeah,
kind of a legal parlance there, maybe. I don't know. That's
yeah.
just it's weird. I don't know.
It could be them trying to protect themselves. Wording maybe talked about that Allen appeared before a judge in Carroll Circuit Court Friday morning during an initial hearing. The case and the charges against him are sealed. So yeah, I'm just trying to see if it gives any more information that I can tell you guys here.
Well, what would
Superintendent
it be?
Carter.
Okay, if he wasn't going to be charged with murder, first degree, 2 counts of first degree murder, what would it be? I mean, help me think through that. Like logically, with the amount of just stuff surrounding this that would merit a press conference, right? That's going to have they wouldn't would they do a press conference for anything but?
Well, I mean, he's got to have something. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be. I honestly think it would have to be murder charges. I can't think of what, unless it's like a conspiracy to commit murder. But in a lot of states, doesn't that also carry the same kind of uh, um the same kind of weight in the court system anyway? Conspiracy or the act of.
yeah, I'm reading that it says, meanwhile, Delphi residents said they often saw Allen in their community, either working at a local pharmacy or dining out with his wife. And one of the servers was telling me that he wouldn't speak much. His wife would order the food and that they would split it.
You really, so we're saying that maybe he didn't want to speak out a lot in public. I wonder, could it be
Yeah.
because there's
You recognize his voice?
there's a nifty little sound file everywhere?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the general manager of this place was saying to the news, it's called Brick and Mortar Pub, that he didn't really speak. And then they talk about that Allen's home was searched the same week that another man accused of a charge unrelated to the murders, but discovered during the investigation, Kegan Kline was facing a pretrial hearing in Miami County. So, that's the thing. Everybody talk about his arrest date, and the neighbors to him did inform everybody that his house was searched days prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And his neighbors talked about that when they saw the cops, they didn't really think anything about it. They didn't really pay attention about it. So he really just talked about that. The only thing he found was odd that they were going through the fire pit, which I find interesting. Remember at first everybody kept hearing about the fire pit, and it was talked about that the fire pit at Kline's grandma's house, right, which is Tony Kline's parents, or a mother, or his father passed away. So they're there. And remember, that's supposedly where they went, which was on Paw Paw Lane, that they went to the grandparents' house that afternoon. That was their alibi.
Right.
Although the police said that they could see that Kegan Kline was at his cousin's house, which was on Country Club Road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, then you're thinking, okay.
Or at least his device pinged there, right?
Yep. And like we said, everybody's looking for his name and looking for info, and we've used different things. There's several ladies who we've talked about this case forever, and we've investigated so many people. There's been so many people on the radar, and then all of a sudden we go to look at this Richard Allen guy, and it's like, wait a minute, where's all his stuff? Where is all his info? If he has other names, I'm not shocked, right?
Well, and it could be
any aliases at all.
Maybe some stuff has been taken down either by him or maybe even by law enforcement prior to the public side of this coming out. It makes me wonder if he has been looked at more than what we realize. I think we'll definitely find out, but they could have been looking at him for a bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And and when we looked, I mean, didn't we find one that we were trying to find a name? And then when we looked up the name, it looked like a deceased man. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
we were like, wait a minute.
We started looking through cemetery records and stuff.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say there was some weird stuff that we were just.
That's why I really do feel like he's got probably more than one that synthetic identity theft stuff. If it's not just putting himself on the internet as somebody else, right, digitally making himself appear as somebody else, there could the instance of the person that was born in the late 19th century in Delphi, the name that kept getting attached to his and some of those searches, I was like, well, that maybe you hear about criminals doing that, going to cemeteries and taking names and dates off of headstones,
right?
If they need to kind of, I guess, create an identity.
Well, Danny in our chat is saying that his wife has now took down her Facebook. I'm sure she has.
Yeah, I'd heard that too.
I mean,
And Kathleen said that
lots of the pictures all came from her Facebook page. I mean, I will say I did look at that, a picture that had his wife and him in it. And I mean, all the spouses out there, it just makes me feel sad, right?
Kathleen and Kate are also talking about that identity, which I hadn't heard of until I think Nablus. I saw on one of his videos this Craig Renfro persona or identity, which I think is actually a person's name that Richard Allen assumed as an alias. It's actually an actual person in Indiana, but um, he's used that name that it comes up attached to Richard Allen. So,
And just to let everybody know too, in Indiana, I'll dox myself because others try to do it anyway. I'm from Indiana. I'm from
Lovely.
Indiana. Not born here, but I'm from Indiana. Live here. That's what happens when you marry a Hoosier boy. But but the one thing in Indiana that they can arrest you and they have 72 hours, a 72-hour window before they have to announce what your charges and stuff are. So that's one thing. Here's the other thing. And I know, all the people who are into true crime have thought about this. And it is checking his DNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because isn't anybody else curious if he's ever done something like this before?
You would think he would show up in CODIS, right?
Right.
But he has no
sexual assault. He could have. I mean, he can lie about what his name is, but you can't lie about what your damn DNA is. So if they take his DNA, they can find out if he's been doing something else.
Imagine if stuff is starting to light up in CODIS, if with his DNA being put in there for the first time.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't seem to me like a first timer. That's just my opinion, but I mean, I know people have different opinions across the spectrum on that about like profiling what type of killer this is, and he's middle-aged and he's kind of what initial profiles were being put out there as.
Well, here's the
those boxes, right?
Part of what makes sense. Part of what makes, and here's what thing, when you think about this guy, okay, he was caught on video. We have a recording of the voice. And I mean, and I know you all think the same thing. How frustrating is it that Libby and Abby captured this, right? They knew something was wrong. They captured this video of this guy with that bad, right? You get that bad feeling that something's wrong. They see him, he's coming, they're recording and stuff, his voice, and then it takes this long to get him. And for people, these child Pedi Rings, they use that term hiding in plain sight a lot for it. Mm-hmm. And when I've been watching that stuff and looking into the other cases and stuff, they use that term all the time because you don't know who's looking at this kind of stuff at home. You don't know who has it on their phone.
Well, and the phone anymore, everybody's got a phone, and it's just as powerful as people's hard drives on their CPUs used to be at home, and that's mobile. That people take it everywhere, and there's VPNs, and there are, there's incognito browsing and all kinds of stuff, and that's just that's not even the dark web type stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just very accessible and pervasive.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting to me that we have to feel okay about putting our children in schools when, with the previous slide, what you just showed, and we see how clustered up things are here in Indiana with these kind of CSAM cases and the level of depravity in those items that they collect. They're collectors of this, and that's the you know, a lot of them will talk about that, and they use the words as a collection, as if it's something like a stamp collection, right? But for them, it's this, and it's totally depraved.
And I see people commenting and stuff about his wife. You know, they were married a long time. If this is right, because we were looking at it.
I don't know
Maybe
about
when
that.
you're looking at a second wife, I don't know if it's the original
I
wife that married in Peru.
I
And
hadn't finished looking at that when we before we went live. I feel I don't feel as secure in that initial thing
right.
anymore.
I mean, we do know he did have a marriage in 1991 to in Peru. So there's a Peru connection and stuff in there too. And that there was a connection to Logansport, which is also where the Klines grandparents where Kegan Kline's grandparents originally were from, and moved from Logansport over to Peru. These are all little bitty towns just next to each other. But you know, I would think if a wife is with a husband, you would think that. But you know, if you can also talk yourself out of stuff. I mean, you just think something's going on or something's weird, and your mind, I don't think, would let you go that extreme to say, oh, my husband is looking at abusive CSAM of children. And he had to be looking at that like pretty severe. I mean, I just, I mean, I would.
If he did, I mean, if he
90%
was, is
he
there
would
a
look at it.
chance? I just don't think there's a chance that he could be capable of a crime if, you know, if that's what we hear tomorrow, that he is bridge guy, he is the one who did this, right? We're talking about Richard Allen. I find it very hard to believe that he wouldn't be in those circles. And especially given the extreme coincidental nature then that the Klines and the Dropbox and the chatting with, you know, Libby the day of, that Anthony Schott's account was in contact with Libby the day of her murder. I mean, there's just too much that's a coincidence there for me not to think that. Why would he be just a killer but not involved in the CSAM side of that whole business, you know?
And that would be the only reason that in my opinion, as I'm thinking this, I'm thinking it as I say it, right? No pre-planned here of discussion. That would be the only reason that Kegan would be there, right? Why else would Kegan be there? Are you telling me he met this 50-year-old guy who's as old as his dad, and they just happened to meet there, and Kegan happened to have the girls there? No, I think it was that setup, that communication, whether he was using Anthony Shots himself and he gave it to him, or he told him he would set it up.
Yeah.
Or
I think he probably, and maybe he did it for money. You know, he's all about the bucks and the Vegas and the high rolling, right? And
yep.
all his various, you know, delusions about himself. I mean, so he probably sold the credentials for logging in.
Yep. Yep.
Or or passed off the device, handed it around. Who knows how they do their stuff? But I would have to think there's definitely a connection. Otherwise, you're left with this idea that, okay, Richard Allen was just an opportunistic murderer of children in broad daylight in a public place.
Well, did he take a lot of risks though? I mean, that's brazen. It's he's
With
brazen because
a couple
he
of
knows that area.
misdemeanors. He has nothing. I mean, he's got traffic tickets. He's got a drug and alcohol problem with, you know, some, you know, like the misdemeanor stuff that he's got, that he's with the DUI and the public intox and disorderly conduct type stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's it. But you jump from that. You're telling me you jump from that to being a lone wolf murderer of 2 children in broad daylight on a Monday in Delphi, Indiana.
The only thing is that the only thing I can think of that he felt comfortable is that he could walk back to CVS, right? We looked up all that stuff, all of that where he was, and because Delphi's small, he could walk from CVS right over to the Monon Bridge. I'm sure he's done it a million times.
Sure, yeah.
He's been over there. He's obviously been across the bridge because he
Mhm.
went there to take pictures of his own kid.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew the bridge,
or at least set it up, or they've been there before.
Away,
mm-hmm.
Right? But then the connection was Kegan Kline, and I'm just thinking this out loud, so think it all with me, people. Don't take I'm saying this for certain. Was Kegan Kline there just to help this weird 50-year-old who was using the Anthony Shots thing, or was Kegan Kline there for another person who was there also? Right? Because I feel like, why would he pick this guy up? This guy can walk back to work, walk to his car, right? Walk to his truck.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He can get over there.
Well,
too.
The only thing I would say too, as well, in the research I did, I could be mistaken as well. I'm not anybody, but his DUI conviction, the sentencing for that happened in November of 2016, and he was given a suspended sentence in exchange for a plea, and they dropped one of his charges, and the judge told him, you've got 60 days, but I'll suspend it. You're under supervised probation for a year. So from November of 2016 to November of 2017, he was on supervised probation for his DUI. And he also had a 30-day mandatory, what do you call rehab, where he had to do like the court-ordered rehab 30-day program.
Right.
And he had to get that done. So that was scheduled out. Now, if you're scheduling out somebody's rehab, court mandated, perhaps it was scheduled before Christmas, because that sentencing came out in, November of 2016. He's on, he had his driver's license revoked for a year. That's what I was going to say based on what you were talking about. So the suspension of his driver's license, the mandatory rehab, and the gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm trying to look at chat and try to keep the trolls. I can't focus, my ADHD. But anyway, just
let me point out to everybody. Mm-hmm. You'll see, like, normally when I do a show, you'll see the presentations I do, and you always see the source, right? I normally I source everything because I'm like, misfact stuff. I don't go off of bull crap that somebody made up over here, over there, whatever. I don't do that. Right. I do that. Although, because we are all so anxious about tomorrow, you're just thinking about all the scenarios of what, could come out of that. And it just builds another factor and stuff on it, that it's this, this guy from Delphi. And oh my God, I can't imagine. I hope they have really good cameras and stuff out there and whatever, because like if a camera goes out or their video goes out, the world would just end at that moment, because we're all just dying to find out what happened. I may have to watch that live tomorrow. We can all watch that together, because I'm ready to hear us go, oh my God, what? You're like, what did they just say? So, that's why we're talking about this. I think that there's arrests that have happened since Kegan got arrested from a bunch of these guys all over the state of Indiana. I did see somebody talk about missing kids in Indiana. Yes, I have a video, very quick 2-minute video of the 28 kids who've been reported missing just this year. Not cold cases, not whatever. I'm talking 28 kids. And that was at the time of that recording. So we may have some more that's reported missing and stuff like that.
Right. But we should try to check and like update on a regular basis.
Yeah. And so I appreciate you guys being here and us talking that out. The dog hair thing, absolutely. Heard about that and stuff as well. We know from the Ron Logan search warrant that in the list of items was talking about hairs from animals. Mm-hmm. We know also that in the second search warrant, which I would love to see that affidavit, the second search warrant that happened, on the Kline's house, which happened only when Tony was there, right? Because it happened, what was it, 2 to 3 weeks after Kegan Kline was in jail. So that interview he did with Barbara McDonald, he told her 2 to 3 weeks ago they did a raid on my dad's house, and now he's not talking to me. Well, I bet you he's not talking because he thought that Kegan did talk, and that was the reason that they were going to the house. So if you remember, all the devices and everything they got were all of Kegan's, because the dad immediately goes, oh, well, this is, yes, my son has Snapchat and Instagram. I don't have that. And then his son admits that he hasn't, and they tell him to gather up his devices, and they leave. Of course, there's a phone left. It happens, I don't know, to be in the microwave, whatever.
Was it on the microwave, in the microwave? Because that's crazy if you tried to nuke it.
Well, that's funny. I think it was put in the microwave just to hide it.
Yeah,
Because
who would
remember,
look?
every device charge he has is only from 2015 and 2016 when they were starting to look at the stuff. The phone that was messed up was the current one that he was using for 2017, and it would have had the communications and stuff that he had with Libby on there, right? So they never took any materials that Tony actually owned. But that second search warrant, remember, they took the dog. Now, maybe he was treating the dog horribly. I don't know.
Well, we know about some of his searches that I would think if it wasn't to take a sample of hair, they needed to get that dog out of there anyway because of some of the searches he was doing, certain types of illicit materials he was wanting to look at online for the safety of the dog and maybe to gather for the actual investigation too. Yeah. It's just terrible. I can't believe I just said that sentence, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So we're up. We got another guy, James Eugene Rippey, 38, from Peru, Indiana. So he was arrested April 22nd of 22. The Peru and Kokomo Police Department began the investigation in March of 2021. So see, it takes a whole year. I mean, at least when they're doing this stuff. So they were looking at production and possession of child pornography in the area, what the news release said. During the investigation, officers identified him as the suspect. Homeland Security investigators got a federal arrest warrant signed, and he was taken into custody. The case, the Kokomo police said, still remains under investigation. So they're not even telling us everything he's done, right? He's not. We don't even get to see what he's done. But the FBI issues, Homeland Security issues the arrest warrant. They take him in there, and we don't know another thing about him. But April of this year. Remember, you know what's close to this date? I just thought about this. This was not a planned thought, but it happened. April 21st is when Ubu was announced. The Yellow app. And this guy was busted. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Curious. So we've got another guy. He's only 31. This guy's from Lafayette, Indiana. Richard Crowley. FBI agents Wednesday served the warrant. Preliminary charge of possession of child pornography. FBI spokesperson. It says there was one local arrest while a federal investigation is ongoing. She declined to release further details. So some of these people that they're not telling us the details, so a couple they're not showing us the images, but we know that it's the federal FBI and they're not sharing more details. I'm just saying, I think it could be another operation bust. I think it could be part of it. This was on June 8th of 22. And can I say that some of these people's pictures scare me? And you'll see when we flip the next one, because he's scaring me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Harold Harvey, 56. Indiana, Burns Harbor, cyber tips from NetMech. I use that term. That's National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, for those who don't know. To the arrest of 5 felony counts of possession of child pornography. It was a result of a lengthy investigation by Indiana State Police Internet Crimes Task Force. Started with a cyber tip in 2021, another year. A total of 14 additional tips were received over the next few months that were all found to be associated with other social media accounts linked to him. So he had more than one, multiples. He has 5 counts are level 5 felonies for possession of child pornography, according to court documents. Those involve images of girls believed to be ages 10 and younger. He had a total of 897 videos of suspected child pornography. That is not a mistype or a missay. He had 897 videos. He had communications with other users via Facebook Messenger to share CSAM. He was arrested May 6th of 22. So I'm going to say, guess who else used Messenger? The Klines did.
Mm-hmm.
That's on their report.
That was mentioned, yes.
So we've got another guy, Portage, Indiana. When we get up a little bit farther north, yes, we are Eastern time here. Oh, that was you answering, Amy.
Yeah, I managed to type something in the chat.
Indiana is Eastern time. So we got this guy's Portage, Indiana. That's up in northern Indiana. That's almost near Chicago. Arrested with dozens of videos and photographs of CSAM, told investigators he began viewing the items online after becoming bored with adult pornography. Oh, what? I feel so sad for him. How horrible. 5 counts of possessing child pornography, including 3 counts that carry a potential sentence of 1 to 6 years. How does it only have 1?
That is baffling to me.
I mean, can I see this? Does everybody agree with me that I don't think this can be cured? How about a 1 in the chat if you agree that this cannot be cured from people who are doing this stuff?
It's what's he going to do when he gets bored with just possession? Right?
Yep.
Well, at least possession is what the charges they could bring against him and back up, right, in court would be the 5 counts of possession. So if he gets bored with adult porn, where are you going to go? What's the next thing?
And
right?
the recommitment of this stuff is ridiculous. I mean, the stuff that they do, the
recidivism,
right back, yeah, right. They go right back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you hear they get a light sentence or their charges are dropped, and all of a sudden, they're back out there doing it again.
Right. And then can you imagine how frustrating that would be if you were an investigator or law enforcement and you had to look at the crap this person possessed in his 5 counts that they charged him with. And then let's say on down the line, it's a rinse and repeat. Here's somebody else again, right?
Yep.
That would annoy the heck out of me.
Yeah, I don't know why they have these light sentences. I mean, and it's worse for others. I mean, different states all have different laws, but
right.
You know, this is guys. Eric Murphy's 38. He's also Valparaiso, Indiana. That's up in northern Indiana. He had tens of thousands of digital images and video of child pornography, including children as young as 9 years old. The internet protocol address linked to him was described as a very active distributor.
Oh, gosh.
An active distributor. So he told police he came across child pornography while doing online research and wanted to rid the world of it.
Bullshit.
I'm sure they hear all this kind of crap. And
yeah.
Not to believe it, but so he's got 2 felony counts of child exploitation, 2 felony counts of possessing child pornography. Stated that he takes sleep medication called Ambien, and sometimes after Ambien, he goes into an electronic trance and does things on the computer which he doesn't remember doing. Does anybody believe that shit? There's no way.
there's an excuse for everything with these people. I'm sorry. It's going to be somebody else's fault, or here's this excuse for why I'm this way, or it's not really that bad, right? Where they minimize whatever it is, or try to normalize or minimize.
Yep.
It's infuriating.
Yep. So he was arrested April 9th of 22. Here's what I'm asking. Why does it say he only has 2 felony counts of each? They just said he was an active distributor and he had tens of thousands of images. So how
Well,
is it they got 2 counts of each? Doesn't
he
make
can
no
always
sense.
get more, he can always get more charges, I think, on these things that haven't gone to court yet. A lot of times, uh,
I'm curious of what turned that this is so available and then somebody decides to click on it and then get more. What the hell? So here's another guy you'll love. This guy, because it's right on the edge here of near Indiana. Pedro Ibarra, 48, Elk Grove Village, Illinois, former Illinois elementary Chicago public school teacher, sentenced to 50 years in federal prison for sexually exploiting an Indiana child. So that's why he's in here. You wonder why is it? Hey,
sometimes it's victims that are in Indiana. People
yeah,
from
and
out of
that's the
state
other
come to
thing.
your state.
Are they since you have these people who are committing this and doing this, are they sitting here and going, okay, we already have kids that we victimize, so come here and victimize these kids because we've already
Oof.
taught them, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy engaged in a Google Duo online chat with a boy who lived in Indiana. The child was under 13 years at the time. So please don't think this is just girls.
No, it happens to boys quite frequently.
Everybody needs to realize this can happen to your young boys as well, because these guys will pose as girls.
They will pose as girls, and they will often meet them on games, right?
Yep.
And that's very difficult to trace, especially when there's, when you get into these gaming lobbies that are just randomized with people, and then you get in these chats, voice chat, or just in the text chatting, and then they move them onto another platform, right? Become their friends,
Right.
and then it becomes exploitative, right? And then it becomes a threat if you don't continue sending me what I am saying, or like this guy doing like a Google Duo online chat, right? So if they don't do what the perpetrator says, they get threatened. They get threatened
Yeah.
of, I'm going to tell your parents, I'm going to send your friends these pics that you've sent me, I'm going to send them to your parents. You better do what I say. There's usually at some point there's going to come a threat, and the child becomes afraid.
Yeah.
And they just comply.
And they do that to girls and boys, because once they
Mhm.
because they talk about this. So this guy convinces this under 13-year-old kid, a boy. He's from Hancock County, Indiana, right? So that's far east. It's east of Indianapolis, about 45 minutes to an hour east of Indianapolis. So he drove all the way across the middle of the state to do this crap, and he basically got the kid to do something on Google. He filmed it on his cell phone. So why he convinced this kid to do this? He films on his cell phone, and you're right, Amy. That's what they do. Then they sit there and go, "Oh well, I'm going to tell your parents you did this. I'm going to send them this video." And so now they're scared they're going to get in trouble. And
Mhm.
that's the key. Is one, oh my God, please don't give your kids under certain ages phones. My God, please keep them away from
Well,
this shit.
or if you do, there are ways that if you have to have a phone for your kid, if you're sending a child to a parent on a weekend and they need a phone, um, there are parental restrictions and ways to set up your phone, your child's phone, to monitor and to keep it very much free of anything like that, where they're only restricted to people in the contact list that you create.
Yeah, and let them know there's people, faking to be all this kind of crap. So this guy actually drove in June of 2021 to pick up that boy, and then he drove the boy to a local hotel. So he had on his cell phone where the Indiana State Police looked at that. They end up seeing images of the Indiana child, and they discover there are multiple recordings of this guy with another boy. And they later identified that boy who lived in Illinois and was younger than 15 years old. And then he got arrested August 1st of 22. This is an elementary school teacher. I mean, I don't know how it can get any scarier than that. By the way, if you're looking at any of this stuff, the bottom right-hand corner will tell you that what source that I got this from and been watching from. And also, let me just state, all criminal defendants are to be presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, unless they already pled guilty here, and then there you go.
Some cases have been decided, but some are quite new and pending.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots are pending. Lots are still out there pending. This guy is only 20 years old. And why is he on here? From Elizabeth, Colorado. Because he had a 13-year-old girl who had been missing from Indiana. And she was found during a traffic stop in Nebraska. Because this guy was driving her to Colorado. He was arrested on suspicion of contributing to the delinquency of a minor after they found the girl hiding in his pickup truck. And then he was charged in Indiana, promotion of sexual trafficking of a younger child, kidnapping a victim less than 14 years of age, performing sexual conduct in the presence of a minor, inappropriate communication with a child via electronic device, and dissemination of matter harmful to minors. And that was according to the Lafayette Police Department. So if you remember that Lafayette, that's in the same area, that's kind of the bigger community that's over near, Kokomo, Peru, Delphi. It's just the bigger thing. That's actually our college town where Purdue University is located.
Another 20-year-old.
Another 20-year-old guy, Mooresville, Indiana. 4 counts of child pornography possession, 2 counts possession of pornography, depicting a child under 12. 1 count of possession of child pornography with an image containing bondage. 1 count of distribution of child pornography. State police trooper began investigating in October upon receiving a tip from NECMEC. A tipster suspected child pornography was being sent from one Snapchat account to another. And then the police collected his devices and searched his home. And they found even more images. He was arrested January 12th of 22. So if you notice them, a lot of these guys have been busted recently. A lot of them have been going down. This guy's 58. He was arrested in April of 2019. He was a former Indiana police officer. He was recording young girls in a bathroom. Now, he died by suicide because they were charging him and he was waiting to still be sentenced. Which, tell me why he's out waiting to be sentenced. I don't understand this. So he did pled guilty to 7 counts of child exploitation, 4 counts of voyeurism, after he admitted to setting up a camera in a bathroom to take pictures and record naked videos of a 12-year-old girl and some of her friends, totaling 4 victims in the crime.
Was he a resource officer at a school? Was that this guy?
He was a resource officer too. And so he was arrested in 2019 after a woman found a thumbnail drive containing the images and videos. And he was a police officer there in that town and in Harrison County where he served as the resource officer.
Oh, yeah. Got that right there. Okay.
So here, this one, I just threw this one, next one in because they do stings here in Indiana. And this sting was in Johnson County. And these are 11 guys who showed up to basically have sex with a minor child. And they busted these 11 guys. And they've done 3 different stings. But if you look at them, there's, 49, 20, 30, 19, 40, 25, 22, 30, 22, 35, 35. I don't get this 20-year-old thing. I don't understand it. This guy, Justin Potts, 37, which, by the way, remind me later, Amy, to bring up something, because I think there's a connection between some of these guys that I was looking at
Okay.
that I think I found. Justin Potts, 37, he's from Muncie. He was a registered sex offender and was convicted of sexual misconduct already in 2014. Google flagged him for CSAM, as well as videos and photos depicting CSAM. And it was the report was sent from NetMech. So Potts admitted to having the files that were flagged in the Google report. He was arrested January 14th of 22. The next guy, is 51 out of Evansville. And he was arrested following a 20-month investigation. Activities related to child pornography. Internet Crimes Against Children Unit initiated the investigation in July of 2018, but he's not arrested till 22. They were tipped by NetMech. They found the images on his laptop and memory storage units. He had 2 counts of child exploitation, level 4 felony, 3 counts possession of child pornography, level 5 felony, and held at the Vanderburgh County Jail for $25,000 bond. I don't think that's enough. I'm sorry. You have to pay 10% in Indiana. I don't know if that's the same across the board, but I just don't think that's enough money. I don't think the guy should get out on bond. I mean, honestly, that's what I've been worried about, is that, we've got this, the Delphi guy who was out. I was worried something else would happen. I mean, that long, I was thinking, he's if he feels they're closing in or something on him, he could have went out and done something else. So this guy was the Lebanon police, by Lebanon police. He's Delphi, Indiana. He was 33. He is now deceased. There was a standoff with him, and he died by suicide. He kidnapped and sexually assaulted a woman in Tippecanoe. They had been searching for him for days, and when they found his DNA, they collected his DNA in part of the evidence investigation, murder, thinking that he could have been a suspect for Abby and Libby. And they said he wasn't a priority at the time. So this one will mess with everybody. It did for me as well. By the way, I'm glad everybody's here. Please press the like button and subscribe. Love to have you and get you notified about different discussions we're doing. This guy is John Doe. He's being charged as an adult, but they won't release his picture or his name. He's 15 years old, from Carlisle, Indiana. He was a juvenile court. They decided that they would charge him as an adult. He molested and killed a 6-year-old girl in northern Indiana. So he's charged in her death. Her name is Grace Ross. Her picture is over down there, because I feel like her picture is even more important than his, right? They examined him and said he was competent to stand trial. This was just, they're just east of Chicago, where New Carlisle, Indiana is. And then the boy tried to tell them that a shadow man controlled him and made him strangle Ross after she followed him into the woods from a nearby apartment complex where she lived. He was arrested on March 1st of 21. But they won't let us see him, and they won't release his name. Yeah, there are tons of people in Peru and in Kokomo I mean, that area just seems we get busting the people around that area. This guy's 31, Columbia City, receiving a tip again for NetMech. He revealed that he had an online account, allegedly to Nicholas Egner. And after reviewing the results of the investigation, Whitley County Prosecutor's Office issued a warrant for Egger's arrest. 5 counts of sexual misconduct with a minor, level 4 felony. Arrested February 5th of 22. Gavin Height, he's only 21, Columbus, Indiana. That's a small town as well in Indiana, but just a little bit south. The Indiana State Police began investigating him in 21, January. He was using social media application to possess child pornography images and video files with information provided by NetMech. Search warrant was requested for his home in Columbus. Had 4 counts of possession of child pornography. You know what's sad? A lot of these people, they get it's pled down. These things are just pled down. Here's one that you'll all know and recognize his face. And we're just showing this because I don't know if you guys have heard the update about this disgusting man. You heard his name when it came out. He's from Lafayette, Indiana. Again, not far from the area of where the Delphi happened. James Chadwell II, 43 years old. They sat here and he was charged after there was a missing 9-year-old girl who was reported missing. Her mom reported her missing right away, like within 30 minutes. She called the police. She's like, I need this done. So the police go and they look, and they're going door to door, right? They go to Chadwell's house. Chadwell, kind of is weird about stuff and says stuff weird to the cops. And he's like, oh, well, she came by. She was looking at the dogs, but, whatever. So he was the only person who said that he had seen her. They leave. They come back like 30 minutes later or something like that. And they asked to search his house. And so when they searched the house, they find her locked up in the basement. He admitted that he kidnapped her. This was a sexual
He was
assault.
choking her repeatedly. I mean, she had a lot of physical, obviously emotional, and all kinds of trauma from that. I mean, she was...
And a dog bite. He let her dogs bite her, which was horrific, right? That's just horrific. So after receiving a 90-year prison sentence, Chadwell told the local judge that he was not planning to appeal because, remember, Chadwell went ahead and pled guilty. I mean, what else could he do? The police literally took the girl out of the basement. She's, had this happen to her. I can't imagine how, you know what? I'm not even going to say, how do you recover? You don't recover. You can't recover.
It just changes you.
I can't even imagine that poor little girl. Anyway, he's filing for an appeal. He said he wasn't going to do that. And he's filing for an appeal. They dropped some of the charges that they had for him because he was pleading. And now the bastard is, it's just unbelievable. It makes me sick to even think about him. But he was a suspect for, as you can imagine.
Right. I remember people looking at him. Mm-hmm.
So we've got this guy, Columbia City, Indiana. Again, another little small town. Another tip from NetMech. Then search warrant to his home. He was arrested, taken into custody with preliminary charges, dissemination of child pornography and possession of child pornography. So the investigation is still ongoing. That is key. A lot of these guys were seeing that. He's another one arrested here in April of 22. So, I mean, right now I'm just looking at the dissemination. So they're finding out who he was giving this to. He's sharing it to people. We got another small town coming up of Madison, Indiana. 34-year-old guy, January 22. They served the search warrant. Notice all these search warrants going on. One charge possession of child pornography, level 6 felony. One charge of possession of drug paraphernalia, class C misdemeanor. The investigation is ongoing as digital storage devices seized in the search will be submitted to the state forensic lab.
Right. It's interesting, JSD, we've talked about how instead of collecting evidence and waiting for it to be processed off-site at a lab, they will go in. We read how they would go in and on-site start accessing devices right there. That they're very trained now to go out in the field and to just set that up right away. And often the perpetrator there and in that situation where they're getting busted, they're either finding passwords or gathering enough right away. That way time isn't wasted in getting enough information to go ahead and file charges and to get things moving, right? To get the processes rolling. And then also, like it says here, the devices, storage devices were seized in this guy's case, right? And then they're sent to a forensics lab where all of the metadata can be pulled off in a very meticulous, methodical way. But that a lot of the training and expertise with these people that go in and do these busts, and often very well-timed, strategic busts. They're really, it's impressive the way some of these operations get these guys.
Thank God.
Yes.
I mean, you could look at it a bad way. You could be like, oh crap, don't live in Indiana, right? I mean, that's just like, holy crap. Yeah. I mean, I know you guys have said that to me before. It's like, wow, Indiana sucks, right?
Or you could look at it the other way.
The other way is we're getting these guys.
Right.
We're getting these guys. And you can have these type of people hiding in plain sight in your state. I guarantee you do, and I know you all know it. But I mean, they're gonna, if they have this, the only ones that I can't tell you is who from the other states have they busted, right? Because I'm following Indiana, I'm watching Indiana closely. I don't know who, like this guy's storage device. Who knows where this could connect to?
All over the world. I mean,
right? It's everybody. But I think that's the other point, is to watch these guys who've been busted, which I have been, because then you see, okay, guess what? They're saying there's still more material to go through. There's still more stuff, but they busted them. Like you said, they said, okay, we found this on their phone or device. Here's the question. Then why didn't that happen to Keegan? Because we realized he wasn't participating. He wasn't helping them. He was shocked when they arrested him later. So he wasn't helping them.
Is it because of
device, but they weren't helping him.
Is it just a matter of that was then, this is now? Training and technology are starting to get caught up a little. I mean, I don't even know if it's getting caught up, but it's better, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it was just not on anybody's radar about how to approach it, that this was going on, that they probably, the funding or the equipment or the technology and training weren't quite there. Or in the case of Delphi too, so many agencies, it's really knowing like the chain of, not really chain of command, but how do those agencies interact with one another in a case like this? Because I imagine it has to be unheard of for Delphi. I mean, this is something extreme, very extreme, and involving multiple agencies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, I don't get it. That was still 3 years for Keegan.
Right. And see, at first I wanted to think those 3 years Kegan was cooperating and maybe helping let people go down, right? But obviously he wasn't. Now they could have been watching stuff while he's back.
Right.
You know what I mean? They could have been watching exactly what they're doing and who else is, using Anthony shots or still pulling images and stuff off. They could have easily been doing that already and not had Kegan involved.
Well, they know they're culprits. They know these people. They can't stay away from it.
Yeah.
They don't. Eventually they're gonna start going back to it. I guess it was just a matter of time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ugh.
So you've got 29-year-old Walkerton, Indiana. This was a tip for NetMech. Thank God for that group, by the way.
Can you believe? And how many instances here? So, and this is just out of the sampling we have. Has NCMEC been integral, right, in reporting these out to law enforcement?
Right.
There's way too many social media platforms and apps and things where these predators they exist. And so when the algorithms and the bots that are there in Twitter or whatever, Kick, I guess, any of these, that it's pinging in the system of NCMEC, right?
Yeah.
And they're just rolling it right out to the authorities. Bless those people.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them, it kind of comes from some of the social media sites now have more of a responsibility to report. They're asking them for more responsibility. So when they're seeing it, hey, people who think your kick crap isn't going to be shown, yes, it can. It can be found. But when they have something on Google, when they have something on Snapchat, when we have anything like that, and then it gets reported to NetMech, then NetMech contacts whatever local authorities it has to be. When you see that it has the Homeland Security or the FBI in it, that means you're crossing state lines. That's why Homeland Security and the FBI would be listed in some of these guys' cases. When it is, that means they're looking further, and their stuff crosses into multiple areas. So again, here's this other guy: 2 counts possession of child pornography, 2 counts of child exploitation. Again, tipped by state police and NetMech. So we got another Petersburg, Indiana. That's a small town too. Jason Potts, 47. There was a tip from that about images on Facebook. Investigators served the search warrant on his home, and he had been sharing files with girls under the age of 16 between October of 2020 through January of 22. And he was charged with vicarious sexual gratification, 2 counts of child solicitation, 2 counts of possession of child pornography. He was arrested on January 31st of 22. And remember, we've got Kegan Kline goes into jail August 19th of 2020, right? When do we learn about Kegan's in jail? December of 2021.
Yep.
So by that point, I guarantee you they're telling Kegan, you better tell us who you know that's doing all this stuff. This one's horrible. This involves a husband and a wife. This lady's from Mitchell, Indiana, small community up there. That task force did a search warrant on the home. Her husband, Brennan, was there. So, but after they checked the materials and stuff, a warrant was also issued for her arrest after the search warrant was conducted. She was charged with 5 counts of possession of child pornography and 1 felony count of a false informing. Don't know what that was about. That was on September 21. Here's her lovely husband we'll pull up next. Brennan Winkler, 26. So he's younger than her. Was busted there. So he was there when the task force got there on August 24th of 22. He was charged with child exploitation, 20 counts of possession of child pornography, also possession of meth. I know you're shocked by that. And drug paraphernalia. Okay, this next one If you haven't heard it, which many of you may, will blow your mind. Um, in Indiana, we were informed about this, and if you're in a state that this guy did this, now this picture is the only picture you can get of him. There is no shots of his face. They've hid him. He was arrested in Sacramento, California. He was portraying himself as an 11-year-old girl named Lizzie online and speaking with children in an effort to groom them. There was a search warrant served on December 1st of 2021. And they found screen recordings that showed children engaged in SA. Investigators said they found numerous files in cell phones and accounts that he was using to communicate. At that time, we did not have enough evidence to arrest him on site, but we took all of those electronics. This is the officer talking. Over the last several months, we had forensically analyzed all of those and have identified 80 different victims. Let me say this, it's now over 100 victims. This was when this happened. Mm-hmm. But they said 80 victims and an additional 15 to 20 internationally, which we have not identified yet. So the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, there's the group I told you that would be there if it's multi-state, is also working on identifying the more than 15 other victims residing internationally. The victims vary in age, but deputies say they range between 6 years old to 13 years old. Okay, so this guy's arrested on April 27th of 22. I only put the map of the United States up where it shows all of the victims he had. And I want you guys to look at the cluster of people in Indiana. Indiana had a huge cluster of kids. And if you look above next to his picture, I have the image, a clip that I didn't clip all of them. You can find it and clip it. These are the ages to the left of the kids. These are all the kids in Indiana, and these are their towns. The youngest kid that he got images from is 6 years old. Somebody tell me how a 6-year-old has a phone.
Brothers, sisters, parents. I mean, they have devices.
So he's got images of the 6-year-old from Hobart, Indiana. So you got a 13, 6, 12, 11, 10, right? And then I want you to notice how many are from Kokomo. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids that have been identified in Kokomo. Mm-hmm. And that's curious. When we've had tons of guys busted in Kokomo, Indiana for these charges, and then look at this guy.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting the patterns that they use. A lot of these are younger men, not all, but they're mostly younger men. They pose as females online around the age of child that they're targeting. It's to get them comfortable, right? It's that whole grooming thing of getting them to, I guess, comply. It's pretty sick because it's a level of deception and to deceive the most innocent among us.
Yeah. And Leanna, Geyer, and Renee, yes. The Richard Allen was married to his wife. We're going to say first wife because we're not quite sure if there's a second wife. But he was married in Peru, Indiana in 1991. So he has a family connection in Peru. He has, his wife has a family connection to Logansport. And then obviously Delphi. Now they have lived in different areas, and he has family in some different areas in Indiana as well. So, we know of Greenwood, we know of in Hamilton County, we know of some other locations and stuff. that they are from. So he has a family deep background similar to the Klines. When I talk about why Tony Kline, I believe, hadn't been arrested for CSAM, I have a video about that. It talks about all the generations that the Klines go back. So that's why I am not shocked that they would know each other at all because of that. This guy is a scary guy too. And this is Sean DeWitt, 34 of Lafayette. There is no photo available from the FBI. He was convicted October 24th of 18. He has 30 years in prison. Distributing CSAM, production of CSAM by coercing a minor to engage in SA, possessing the child CSAM. He got 30 years in prison. I looked for his photo, and there is nothing that the FBI is sharing of this guy's info. So I find that interesting. There's a little bit more there, but I am not able to really get into that info. So now I put this in. This is only in here because of the conviction date. If you don't know, how many ever remember Fogle, the Subway guy? Anybody remember him? Lost all that weight. You know, was a big celebrity spokesperson for them, right? Well, he lived in Indiana. He lived in Zionsville, Indiana, and he was busted for child pornography and for going and having sex with girls who were under age 18 and traveling to do so. Well, guess who also got busted? The people who got busted were people who running his nonprofit foundation. So this is his Subway spokesperson. This was Jared Fogle's accomplice's wife. So him and her husband, this was 2015, they busted Jerry Fogle, right? They did not go to jail and get convicted and stuff and arrested until 2020. So I'm amazed by that this took that long to even happen. She was charged with possession of CSAM, conspiracy to provide CSAM, and exploitation of children. She got 60 years in prison. It was an FBI investigation. That's because her husband and her ran the nonprofit. And they both got sentenced, but that took that long. I don't understand that. And people were shocked of, how is this case still going and that long of a conviction when it was a 2015 thing? There's another case in Lafayette, Indiana, which again is close to, it's in that area range of Kokomo, Delphi, a 34-year-old. He had thousands of images on his phone, 9 counts of possession of CSAM, 1 count of sexual misconduct with a minor, and then a 15-year-old whom Graham had sexual contact with, 1 count of child exploitation. He was arrested and charged October of 2021. And a NetMec had notified the Tippecanoe County in December of 2019. It took 2 years, and that's because of how much images this guy had. So I'm pointing these people out because these are people who were all busted and arrested during the time when Keegan got busted and then when he got arrested too, right? All of these images and stuff popped up. So I think if there is an announcement, which is my thought, that they could also announce that this busted a child Pedi Ring I think that some of these people who have been busted in Indiana are related to that. And I feel like there could be more arrests that they bust, honestly, between now and when they do the announcement. If like there's a big person that they're really going to get. But this kid's a 21-year-old kid. He had 3 counts of exploitation of a boy child, 13 years old, 1 count of attempted exploitation of a child. He was sexually exploiting children in Indiana and California. This is a 21-year-old. He admitted to other acts of exploitation. He's got over 27 years in prison. He did plead guilty. That's Bartholomew County. This was February 18th of 22. Another small town of a guy, 39. He was out of Martinsville, Indiana. Distribution, possession. He was already a convicted child sex offender. He was convicted in 2012 of child seduction in Johnson County, which is in Greenwood, right? The agents recovered Matthew's cellular phone, which contained hundreds of images and videos. His interest engaging in sexual abuse with children as young as 5 years old. Pled guilty, got 15 years. But he was already convicted of this in 2012. So look what happens when we let him out. So this next guy we're going to talk about, you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. This guy's from Ohio. This Raymond Walker, he's 55. Why are we bringing him out? Well, 1, he was already a registered sex offender. He got child solicitation level 4 felony, distribution of obscene material of a minor level 6 felony. He faces charges in Indiana after investigators said he had sexually explicit conversations with a sheriff's deputy who was posing as an underage girl. He attempted to make arrangements to come to Kokomo, Indiana, to meet her and talked about moving to another state with her, according to Howard County Sheriff. You know why it was interesting with him? He offered to meet this Kokomo girl in the woods. He wanted to meet her in the woods. So that drew concern. I think they set up a lot of that stuff to check if any of these predators would ask to do kind of the same thing. Here's another guy out of Peru, Indiana. Here's the shocker, guys. He's 23. 2 felony counts of child molestation. Look how young he looks. Amy, remember we were looking at this guy thinking this was his post. When he went to meet the girl, he got arrested. He went to meet a 12-year-old girl. Okay? He was meeting a 12-year-old girl. He drove to Fort Wayne to meet her. He lives in Peru. He's got these counts, right? He got a $72,500 bond, but he's on monitored release. He's not in jail. So he's got to report to court, regularly, blah, blah, blah. March 7th of 2022 was when he's charged. He's out. He's out and about in Peru right now. But he drove several times to meet a 12-year-old. He molested her when he'd meet her. The parents called. That's how this got found out. When they were meeting, he said he was 19 when he met her, which isn't any better.
His case is in April of next year.
Yeah, I mean
it goes to court. I mean it was postponed once, I think.
So we've got they said that he was institutionalized, but he also had a mental health check that said that he was okay. So we've got this Angola guy, total of 8 counts, child pornography, 2 to 8 counts possession of child pornography, under age 18, investigated by NACMEC, Indiana State Police. He was released from jail after posting his $26,500 bond, which was authorized at 10% or $26.50. Sent an official at Steuben County Jail. He was charged February 16th of 2022. He's out too. Because we don't keep you in jail while you wait to be charged. Why don't we let you out? Doesn't mind you, Kegan Kline? 3 years. What else can they do in 3 years? There's another guy from Lafayette, again, close to where we're talking. Possession of child pornography and dissemination. They were tipped off by NetMec again. He was booked in the Tippecanoe. They will still decide on formal charges. His charges aren't even figured out yet. That was on January 21st of 22. A 20-year-old. Our next guy is going to be out of Louisville, Kentucky, 28. Sexual misconduct with a minor, level 4. Child solicitation, child exploitation, possession of pornography, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He crossed state lines into Indiana to meet a kid. And
Oh, JSD, are you there? We've got no sound.
Investigation still ongoing. July 2nd. We have no sound.
Okay, it's back. Sorry. May have been me.
Here's a guy, Carmel, Indiana. 24. 7 felony charges of child exploitation and possession of child pornography. NetMec, February 1st. Kick reported it. He was believed that he uploaded stuff that was child porn. Kline said that he belongs to many groups on Kick, and most of them are groups made for exchanging child pornography. Read his court documents. Kline had an initial court appearance on June 21st of 2022. He's due back in September for pretrial. He's due back in September. He's out, guys. He's out. They just continue the case and continue the case.
He's out now? Wait, okay. He's on
he paid his bond. There was a bond he paid on that. We can look further. Trust me, we'll watch where these guys go.
Oh, I'm sure.
This is a 33-year-old, again, here's what's sad. Not only just possession of the pornography, 3 counts of neglect of a dependent, level 6 felony. He also had meth. There are additional charges relating to this investigation are still pending. So he's got child pornography, but guess what? He had a dependent, and there was something going on there. Arrested June 14th of 2022. So, when we're looking at, I'm going to unshare this and go back to here. I appreciate you guys being here and looking at all this, because I think that all of these 2022 arrests could relate to the DropBox, could relate to other people that they just busted who are sharing information. In my opinion, I think this guy is going to be related somehow in sharing or looking at materials. I don't think a guy commits a murder like this without being someone who looks at those materials.
I agree.
I just, it would be curious if he's related to any other crimes anywhere else. Is he using aliases other places? His Facebook, his materials all were taken down.
I bet he's getting in the system, right? He'll be in CODIS. They're going to start, I bet they've already done lots of checking. I'm hoping. I'm sure it'll be a while before anything would come from it. If there's anything, there, other crimes, possibly.
Oh yeah. I'm sure the minute they got him, his blood was taken. They
Mm-hmm.
put that in the system. His DNA is in there, and it's just sad because for me, I think there's an urgency when you find out that somebody's looking at these materials. Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
there's an urgency when you find out that they're um, hurting somebody, they're a person that they're making this materials with, and but when they take it to this next extreme level of that either children are being extremely abused, right? I mean, I don't even want to know what the words proper words are to say it, um but that they're being hurt. And then does this take somebody to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
where that they would kill children, so um yeah, I'm very interested to hear. I know we've talked about maybe doing a live. I don't know if you guys would be interested in seeing that live broadcast and stuff here. I know lots of people are going to be looking at it and doing for it. If it's that shocking, Amy, we may have to all go live and just go, "Oh my God, what did we just hear?" Or, "Oh,
I don't
didn't
know
we
about
hear?"
y'all. I mean, I've already been having trouble sleeping just thinking of like my mind is just going and going, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it's surreal because for so long we've probably a lot of us imagined what will the day be like when there's something, something, some kind of something, and this seems to be quite a big something. Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, White Wolf, there's a Predators Catcher Muncie. There's also a Predator Catcher Indianapolis that you can see live. They've busted some of these people that you can watch them on Facebook live, meeting up with these guys who think they're meeting up with teenage girls, and you know, they think they're just going to walk away, and some police are very good at getting there and busting these guys and
Hmm.
finding them with uh, other things, unfortunately, and what they come with that they're planning on doing to these girls or boys.
Hmm.
Um, so I think we need to educate our parents and the kids about this, about social media, about what can
Hmm.
happen and things on it. I think that can live in Abby and Libby's legacy, um, is that we catch these people, and we're all excited to hear what the police have found out. What do we know? And are excited about that broadcast
Yes.
tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern.
It may be brief. I mean, it'll probably leave us wanting a lot more. But I'll be glad for any
Yes.
information. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm hoping, Nathan, that it's not something Indiana related. I'm hoping it's getting busted because we're just shining a light on people who got caught because of maybe finding Keegan Kline's info, and
Hmm.
for Libby to be so smart to take the video and stuff of this
Oh,
in the
God
girls'
love
center.
her. Yeah,
And they deserve justice. They have been
they
waiting
do.
for justice, and they deserve justice for sure.
Yes.
So I appreciate everybody joining. Please click and subscribe. We are doing a giveaway once we hit our first 200. We are giving away a Discovery Plus 6-month subscription. That does include the ID channel. I know you all love the ID channel because I love the ID channel. I watch a lot of stuff and crimes from that. And we cover a lot of different crimes, and we go in depth of that with Mama Bear and Kelt and Amy and Paige. And, we do a lot of deep dives and stuff on this. And we are looking forward to it. We will cover more. And I appreciate all
I
of you.
put the just I wanted to say one thing. First of all, thank you, JSD, for all of your hard work on this research and going through all this difficult material. And if anybody's listening or in chat, watching on YouTube, just I put the NCMEC 1-800 number in the chat. I'll put it in there again, about reporting any suspected child abuse or missing children, any exploitation or whatever. It's 1-800 the lost.
Yep.
So I wanted to put that in there right here at the end.
Yes. If you have not watched about the Yellow app, please go learn about that. If you know that you have kids and hear about the very scariness about that, which should not be happening. Tinder for teens, that should not be happening at all. And if you're looking at, why did Tony Kline not get busted for the CSAM? We've got a video and stuff for that. We do have about the 28 missing kids reported so far in Indiana, which that is scary by itself. I have by the way, the case that I was going to cover tonight about Deborah Fulton. It is a cold case of a 16-year-old girl who was killed on Halloween night in 1981. I will be covering that, but I am waiting for documents that is coming from the coroner and the police department of Hammond, Indiana. It has been a long time for this case and for her family, and we want to try to find justice and stuff for that. And that is our purpose, and that is my purpose. And I have met these ladies. I met in chat, like you're chatting right now. I met them in chats on other great channels. We ended up all watching this stuff together about Delphi, and I have followed that case, obviously living here and being here since the moment those girls ended up missing, and then finding out that they were murdered has been horrific.
You need friends to go through this stuff. You have to. I'm glad we have friends here.
Yes. And I'm not trying to be the top, a top channel here. I'm not trying to make, money and stuff off of this. I just really care about the case, and I cover cases, and kids touch my heart a lot. And, I appreciate it. So subscribe to that channel. You can possibly win the Discovery Plus, and I hope you'll join us for other discussions and other shows and cases that we need help with. So I appreciate it. It is great to have you guys. Thank you for the great discussion out there and thoughts and topics and stuff. And I hope we were able to catch all that. And I will get better and better, hopefully, as I learn how to do this more and more. So, and Amy, thank you for joining me to talk with me through all of this.
Thank you for having me on here.
So it was less boring to just hear me just talk and stuff too. So
no, you're great.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And let's make sure that justice is served daily.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
See you all tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.